basically last month recalled 500 million eggs from the market. They had to pull them all back out of the market. And again, the issue is about health regulations and, who bears the cost of that. And so the Republicans aren't in favour of more regulation, yet people are getting, 1,500 people got salmonella. So there's that whole debate about commercial farming and is bigger better for the consumer at the end of the day. And I mean, again, you're getting more, if you go to some of the city markets, people want to buy free range and they're prepared to pay more for free range. But can you do it commercially? That's a...
Okay, the chicken or the egg question, isn't it?
That's right.
Let's move over to Japan now and let's talk currency. For the first time in 6 years, James, the government has intervened and they've devalued the yen. What effect is that having on markets around the world?
Well, I guess that markets don't like it when governments intervene in currencies and things like that. It creates a lot of uncertainty. It provides imbalances to what's going on around the world. So they don't like it, and they're probably going to, it's probably I think the Japanese have come in and sort of set a bit of a target. So it may not have as much impact as perhaps other intervention schemes have had, but markets don't really like it.
Okay, let's move a little closer to home now, gentlemen. And I see that Alan Hubbard's companies, 2 more, have gone under the gun of statutory managers. Where is this all going to end up, Jeff?
Badly. I mean, we know it's going to end up badly. The question is how badly and how much is the taxpayer going to be on the hook for? I guess there was an article, I think, in the Herald yesterday where Bernard Hickey was put this huge list of 25 questions, unanswered questions from Alan Hubbard and from the former management at South Canterbury, and I guess everybody wants some answers to some of those questions.
And it's been
we're not getting them.
Yeah, we aren't getting them. It's been a long time since Alan Hubbard has really talked about any of this. What effect is that going to have on his own investors, their confidence, James?
Well, I mean, the investors are all, most of them are all shut down into statutory management. Yeah. So, it doesn't, I guess he's probably closed shop because he, there's not a lot for him to say, and the news out there hasn't been great. So, there's going to take time to unweave the sort of mesh of different interests around the place and the different schemes that are in place. So, this has happened. We've seen another couple this week, and I don't know how many more would come out of the mix.
I thought it was interesting that the Prime Minister now is making open comments about how, although Alan Hubbard still has a lot of supporters in the South Island, when they actually know the facts, they're not going to perhaps feel the same. Remarkable comment from a Prime Minister, don't you think?
It is, and it's probably close to the truth. I mean, nobody wants to badmouth Alan Hubbard, but there's a whole lot of unanswered questions as to what went on in that business in the past 4 or 5 years and how did it get into the state it was, and no one's getting any answers.
Meantime, I'm sure farmers in particular down in the South Island will be thrilled to know that the Heartland Bank, the new bank, is moving slowly towards reality, apparently. What's that all about, James?
Yeah, well, I guess there's tighter regulations for non-bank deposit takers, that sort of thing. There may be some benefits out of becoming a bank. It's going to take time for them to do that. Yeah. It does seem like some of the media reports I've read is that they're looking to merge, they're looking to list, but it's going to be could be 12 months before they get their banking license, and there's a lot of loops to jump through before that happens. So it'll be. I mean, competition is always a good thing. And more financiers in the market, it's going to be a good thing for farmers and for people all over New Zealand.
Okay, and it looks like now moving over to New Zealand Farming Systems Uruguay that Singapore-based Olam has made a successful bid, if you like. I think it's 70 cents a share they've offered. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it seems like they've met their 50.1% requirement. They've gone unconditional, so their offer was conditional on them getting over 50%. So then they had control of the company. It does seem like over the last few days, and they've met that, and so the offer has gone unconditional for all those that have accepted the shares or the offer at 70 cents, and they'll get paid over the next week.
Is that going to be good news for this company going forward? Do you think, Jeff?
I mean, the Uruguay company?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, having a stable shareholder that has deep pockets is much better than, a company that was highly leveraged. I mean, they're able to do a 5-year business plan without worrying about, funding things. And if you're going to be a long-term investor, sometimes you go backwards before you go forwards.
Okay, and let me just take you down south now to the terrible snowstorms they've had. That's really whacked the lambing season there. What kind of big effect is this going to have on production?
I think, well, it can have an effect on production across all sectors, lambing, dairy sector. I mean, the things that I've read is that, the dairy guys are through their calving, so it shouldn't have too much effect on calves, because that's the biggest risk. I think the biggest effect is going to be on the lambing sector, with a massive, a reduction in the lamb stock coming through this year, and that's going to see supplies dwindle even further here in New Zealand. The market's already very, very tight, so we might see an imbalance in demand and supply. So it might be more positive for prices, but it's not really going to help those farmers, because it's going to impact on their wallets and their cash flows for this year, which is really unfortunate.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Coming up, a new fund in Australia has raised hundreds of millions of dollars to invest in New Zealand forests. And could Chinese know-how turn sea cucumbers into our next big multi-million-dollar money spinner? But first, the farm sales slump continues. So as we go to break, ponder this. How much has the average land price per hectare for all farm sales dropped in the last year? The answer when we come back. Welcome back to Money Talks. Just before the break, we asked you, how much has the average land price per hectare for all farm sales dropped in the last year? The answer, 67%, from about $90,000 in 2009 to $30,000 in August 2010. Just 48 farms sold in August, making it the second weakest month since Real Estate Institute of New Zealand records began in 2003. James, your thoughts?
Oh, there's no doubt that the land market has been weak, probably the past 2 years, in fact. So, what we've seen over the last couple of months with, a downstretch is not surprising. Maybe weather has had a bit of an effect with people not putting their land and their farms on the market. Generally, they probably do after calving, after lambing, that sort of thing. They get into it. So, it's probably something that is going to continue for a while yet, with just really cautious farmers and very little activity there.
And when it comes time to sell, too, James, I'm thinking about the quake situation in Canterbury. We really don't know how the water is affected, the aquifers under the ground. Long term, it could be really tough to unload some land if you decide to get out, couldn't it?
Well, yeah, if I was a buyer, and then that would be, water is imperative in Canterbury, having access to it and having access to irrigation. It knocks a huge chunk off your land value if you don't have access to that. So, that's going to be a key question, and that question's not going to be answered for a little while yet, because we don't know how bad it is.
Okay, Fonterra now is looking at going into 2 new dairy farms over in China. They're looking at, I think, getting back into the manufacturing aspect of it. What's your take on that?
Well, they got probably burned a little bit last time, but I think going into it the second time round, then they'll be taking a lot more control, having a lot more management responsibility, and ensuring that they can make sure that all their processes are in place, and they're going to be producing the best quality product. But I guess it's a good way to diversify the risk a little bit. Here in New Zealand, then we're at a different season. China's if they need product on a time basis, then they're going to be able to manufacture it and produce it year round, and it will supplement the New Zealand season here. So it's a good ploy.
Meantime, the Chinese are coming here, Jeff. They're looking at sharing some of their technology with us down south in Nelson, a company called Wakatu. They're looking at the sea cucumber industry, which is apparently big bucks in Asia. Is this something we should be looking at, taking Chinese technology and making money out of it here?
Why not? I mean, I say we stole Chinese, gooseberries and made them kiwi fruit. So, I mean, why not Chinese, what are they called? Cucumbers, sea cucumbers.
Sea cucumbers.
Yeah, I mean, just come up with a nice branding name, and, I mean, why shouldn't we? We should explore every option. Nothing should be left off the table. And I say, if there's a need and a market there, and as James said, we're in a different, season being in the southern hemisphere, maybe we can produce goods that they want and prepared to pay premium prices. I can't get too excited about it myself, but...
And some good news perhaps for farmers here, James, who want to grow trees on their land. There's a big new fund out of Australia, and they're looking to pump some money into New Zealand. If you were a farmer, would you be jumping in on that?
Well, I don't really know exactly what they're offering just yet, but forestry is a long-term investment, and we have seen over the past 12 months some good forestry prices, some good exports, and good demand overseas. So, but it's interesting that they've jumped on the bandwagon, and if you're talking about forestry, you're talking 25, 30 years, pretty stable. Probably pretty stable over that time, but returns probably haven't been as fantastic as what they have been. So for a farmer, then they've got to probably get some expert advice on how they're going to go about that, what particular types of forest and types of trees that they're going to be looking at.
But certainly log exports have been doing a great business. Port of Tauranga says they're up more than 20%. It looks like it could be a growth industry for quite a while.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because China has probably been going through a big housing spurt, and they have been demanding a lot of our logs. They haven't had access to the Russian market because of tariffs and that sort of thing. And prices here in New Zealand have now got up to the point where they are probably on par with the Russian market. But then when you look at the US market, their building industry is not looking sharp. Their housing market's not looking sharp, as Jeff pointed out. It's probably going to be that way for a little while longer. So, we've seen good prices over the past 12 months. They might continue to be that way, but I'm still pretty cautious about the forestry industry.
Okay, just before we...
I was going to say that I remember back in 1995 when they used to have these money expos, and people come running in saying, where are the forestry seminars? Where are the forestry seminars? Well, those people have been invested in forestry for 15 years. They've made diddly squat when it comes to investment returns. The people who've actually made the money are the promoters of the various property funds or property syndicates. The actual investors have done pretty poorly. So it doesn't have a good track record as an investment class. And again, Harvard's endowment fund is an investor in the central North Island forestry. They've got huge pockets. They've got 20-year time horizons. Most investment people are on, 90-day returns, 1-year returns, 3-year returns, and they usually don't have the stomach to last the distance. So
okay.
I'm a bit sceptical about it.
You're a bit sceptical, and you're allowed to be.
Thank
After
you.
all, this is your field. Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks to my guests, ASB rural economist James Shortall and Jeff Matthews, Senior Financial Advisor for Spicers. We'd love to hear your feedback, so drop me a line on our website. We'll give the last word to British melon farmer Rowie Mears, who came up with a clever way to support her crop of giant fruit. The 45-year-old farmer and mother of 3 says her fruit grew so big they threatened to break the vines. So she asked her customers to donate their old lingerie as a unique support system. More than 40 bras have already been donated. Keep the faith. See you next time.